In the heart of a bustling New York suburb, where manicured lawns hid the rot beneath, lived Elias Thorne, a man whose smile could sell $1 million deal before breakfast. By day he was the golden boy of Thorne Enterprises, a rising star in real estate development, shaking hands with mayors and charming investors over steak dinners. Tall, impeccably dressed in tailored suits that screamed success, Elias was the epitome of the American dream. Neighbors waved as he jogged the tree-lined streets each morning, his golden retriever trotting obediently at his heel. Wives envied his poise. Husbands admired his drive. But as the sun dipped below the skyline, casting long shadows over the concrete jungle of the Bronx, Elias Thorne became something else entirely. A predator. A ghost in the machine of the city that never sleeps. This is the story of how one man's double life unraveled into a nightmare of blood and deception, a tale that would leave even the hardest detectives questioning the darkness we all carry inside. It started small, or so Elias would later claim, in the dim glow of a prison interrogation room. Whispers from his childhood, echoes of a father who ruled with fists and silence, a mother who vanished one rainy night when he was just 12. "She left because I wasn't enough," he'd murmured to himself in the mirror, practicing smiles that never reached his eyes. By his early 20s, Elias had clawed his way up from a rundown apartment in the Bronx to a penthouse overlooking Central Park. His company boomed, flipping derelict buildings into luxury condos for the elite. Colleagues called him a visionary. Lovers called him intoxicating. But late at night, when the city hummed with distant sirens, Elias felt the itch, an emptiness that no closing deal could fill. It gnawed at him like a shadow detaching from his heels, urging him toward the underbelly of the city he helped gentrify. The first one was an accident, or that's the lie he told himself. Her name was Maria Valdez, a 28-year-old single mother working double shifts at a bodega on East on 49th Street. It was a humid August evening in 2018, the kind where the air clung to your skin like a second layer of regret. Elias had been driving home from a late meeting, his Ferrari purring through the neon-lit streets, when he spotted her walking alone, her purse slung over one shoulder, humming a lullaby to ward off the night's chill. Something snapped, a flicker in his chest, cold and electric. He pulled over, flashed that disarming smile, offered her a ride. "It's not safe out here," he said, voice smooth as aged whiskey. She hesitated, then slid into the passenger seat, trusting the man in the expensive car. They talked about her dreams, her little boy waiting at home with a babysitter. Elias nodded, eyes gleaming in the dashboard light. But as they crossed the white stone bridge, the conversation twisted. He asked about her fears, her secrets. Maria laughed it off at first, but Elias pressed, his questions probing like fingers into an open wound. "What if I told you I could make all your worries disappear?" he whispered, the bridge's light streaking across his face like veins. Panic flickered in her eyes. She reached for the door handle. That's when he struck, swift, practiced, a chokehold from behind the wheel that silenced her screams before they could echo over the water. The car swerved into a deserted service road, tires crunching gravel. Elias dragged her body into the shadows of an abandoned warehouse, the Hudson River lapping indifferently nearby. He didn't plan the cuts, the way he carved his initials into her palm like a signature on a contract. But as the blood pooled warm and sticky under his hands, a rush hit him, euphoric, alive. For the first time, the emptiness retreated. He wrapped her in a tarp from his trunk, weighted it with bricks from a recent job site, and let the current claim her. Driving away, he felt reborn, the city lights blurring into a halo of approval. Days turned to weeks and life resumed its polished rhythm. Elias closed a multi-million-dollar deal on a Bronx high-rise, popping champagne with his team while Maria's face graced missing posters fluttering in the wind. Detectives chalked it up to a runaway case, another statistic in a city that swallowed dreams whole. But Elias couldn't stop replaying it. The gurgle of her last breath, the metallic tang on his tongue. The itch returned, sharper now, demanding more. He scoured the streets after dark, eyes scanning for the vulnerable, the night shift workers, the dreamers chasing shadows. His second victim, a college student named Lena Ortiz, fell the same way, lured by charm, ended by precision. This time he chose a derelict alley off Fordham Road, the kill slower, more intimate. He whispered apologies as he worked, but his pulse raced with forbidden joy. By morning, he was back in board meetings, sketching blueprints over coffee, the faint scent of bleach lingering on his cuffs. The pattern emerged subtly like cracks in a foundation. Bodies surfaced in the river. Throats bruised, palms marked with deliberate slices, initials that meant nothing to the cups but everything to Elias, a signature of ownership. Whispers spread through precincts, a ghost haunting the Bronx waterways. Elias watched the news with detached fascination, toasting his invisibility. But deep down, the high faded faster each time, the emptiness clawing back. He needed validation, a witness to his genius. That's when the idea bloomed. An interview. Someone famous, someone who could immortalize his duality. He began dropping anonymous tips to journalists, cryptic letters scented with cologne, hinting at the monster in the mirror. As autumn leaves turned the Bronx into a carpet of decay, Elias's empire grew, but so did the bodies. 5 now, each more elaborate, each feeding the void a little longer. He began collecting mementos, lockets from necks, earrings from ears, hidden in a locked drawer of his mahogany desk. Colleagues noticed his sharper edges, the way his eyes lingered too long on the new intern's throat. "Rough patch?" his partner asked over lunch. Elias laughed it off, but inside the predator purred. The police task force formed quietly. Detective Reyes, a grizzled veteran with scars from the 90s crack wars, piecing together the river dumps. "He's taunting us," she growled in briefings, pinning photos to a corkboard. Little did she know, Elias had already selected his next canvas, a young artist sketching graffiti under the 6 train tracks. The night he took her, the air was thick with impending rain, thunder rumbling like a warning ignored. Elias parked his sleek sedan in the shadows, watching her strokes on the brick wall, vibrant murals of forgotten souls. He approached as a patron, praising her talent, offering a ride to his gallery contacts downtown. She beamed, paint-splattered cheeks flushing. In the car, he drove not to Manhattan, but to an abandoned factory on the river's edge, its rusted beams groaning like the damned. There, under flickering fluorescent remnants, he revealed himself not with violence but with truth. "You're part of something bigger," he said, binding her wrists with silk ties from his glove compartment. Her screams echoed off metal walls as he worked, carving stories into her skin, each incision a chapter in his unpublished memoir. But this time, something shifted. As her life ebbed, Elias felt a chill. Not regret, but anticipation. He needed to share it, to have it witnessed. Cleaning up meticulously, he slipped a note into her pocket. "Tell my story." E.T. before sending her to the depths. The next morning, the note washed up with her body, ink-smeared but legible. Detective Reyes stared at it in the morgue, a knot forming in her gut. This wasn't just a killer. It was a performer craving the spotlight. Detective Sophia Reyes stared at the blood-smeared note for the 3rd hour straight. "Tell my story." E.T. She didn't know it yet, but the monster had already chosen his stage. 3 weeks later, an unmarked envelope slid under the door of Britain's most ruthless interviewer, Lucas Harlow, the man who made prime ministers sweat and gangsters cry on live television. Inside, a single Polaroid of a woman's palm carved with the initials E.T., still dripping. On the back, written in elegant fountain pen ink, "Mr. Harlow, you chase truth like a dog chases cars. I am the car. One night. One camera, no police, or the rivers keep singing. A fan." Harlow's producer screamed it was a trap. His lawyer begged him to burn it. But ratings don't lie. The clip of him opening that envelope on his nightly show hit 18 million views in 6 hours. Comments exploded. "Take the interview. This is the devil himself. Do it, you coward." Harlow booked the abandoned St. Augustine's Asylum on the edge of the Bronx. Condemned since 1974, windows blacked out, corridors that smell of rust and old screams. He leaked the location exactly 48 hours early, daring the police to stop him. They couldn't. Freedom of the press. Public interest. The circus had begun. The night arrived cold and starless. Harlow sat alone under a single hanging bulb. 2 cameras rolling, red tally lights glowing like demon eyes. The room was silent except for dripping water and the low hum of the live feed. 40 million people watching worldwide. He checked his watch, 11:59 p.m. Then the metal door creaked open on its own. Slow footsteps echoed, measured expensive leather on cracked tile. A figure stepped into the light. Perfectly tailored midnight blue suit, white pocket square folded into a razor-sharp peak, golden cufflinks catching the bulb like tiny screams frozen in metal. Elias Thorne smiled the same smile that closed billion-dollar deals and opened graves. "Good evening, Lucas," he said, voice smooth as spilled blood. "Thank you for coming to my confession." The red tally lights blinked. 42 million viewers held their breath. Lucas Harlow leaned forward, voice steady only because the world was watching. "Mr. Thorne, is it?" "Why me, why now?" Elias tilted his head, the bulbiest smile curling like smoke. "Because you, Lucas, are the only man alive who enjoys watching people bleed on television and still gets invited to dinner parties." He placed a small velvet box on the table between them. Inside 7 severed fingertips, each nail painted a different shade arranged like petals. "Souvenirs," Elias whispered. "One for every life I improved." Harlow's throat bobbed, but the camera caught it. Chat exploded. "He's actually insane." "This is live?" Elias continued, voice velvet and venom. "I didn't kill them because I hated them. I killed them because they were asleep. Dreaming small dreams in a city that eats dreamers. I woke them up. Gave them a final, perfect moment of absolute truth." He leaned closer. The bulb flickered as if afraid. Maria screamed for her son. Lena begged to finish her thesis. The artist, God, she was beautiful. She thanked me. Actually thanked me while I carved her masterpiece into her ribs. Harlow found his voice. "You're a monster." Elias laughed soft, almost tender. "No, Lucas, monsters hide under beds. I walked into boardrooms. I paid taxes. I donated to police charities." He tapped the table. "The monster was always the mask I took off at night." Outside, rain began hammering the asylum roof like fists. Lightning flashed through broken windows, illuminating for one frozen second the corridor behind. Elias. Dozens of pale faces pressed against the glass observation pane, eyes wide, mouths sewn shut with black thread, gone when thunder followed. Harlow saw it. The viewers saw it. The live chat turned to screaming emojis. Elias noticed. His smile widened, shark-like. "Don't worry about them. They're previous guests. Very polite audience." He stood slowly, unbuttoned his jacket, and turned his back to the camera. Under the pristine suit, his white shirt was soaked crimson, spreading like wings. He had been bleeding the entire time. "Ready for the real interview?" he asked, voice dropping to something ancient. "Because now, I get to ask the questions." The feed stuttered. 45 million viewers watched the picture tear. Elias lunged. Not at Harlow. At the nearest camera. His blood-slick hands smeared the lens until the world became a red haze. Audio only now. Harlow's chair crashing. A choked scream cut short. Wet tearing sounds. Then silence except for Elias breathing like a lover after climax. When the picture clawed its way back, the single bulb was dead. Emergency LEDs bled sickly green across the room. Harlow was on his knees. Tie knotted tight around his own throat, face purple. Eyes bulging at the lens in final apology. Elias stood behind him, arms spread like a priest at the altar. "You wanted the truth, Britain," he said directly to camera, voice calm, almost kind. "Here it is. We are all drowning in the same river. Some of us just learned to enjoy the water." He reached past Harlow and gently turned the camera toward the far wall. Bodies, 7 of them, arranged in perfect sitting positions, wrists bound with the same silk ties, mouths sewn into perfect silent smiles. Their eyes were open, reflecting the green glow. Maria, Lena, the artist, all of them, preserved, waiting, watching. Elias stepped into frame beside them, blood cascading from the gash he had opened in his own stomach. Deliberate, ceremonial. "I'm tired of pretending," he whispered. "The river always calls its own home." He knelt, pressed his forehead to the cold floor, and began to crawl toward the darkness beyond the light. The camera followed on its tripod, auto-tracking the only moving heat signature, down a corridor that shouldn't exist, down stone steps slick with decades of floodwater, down to the forgotten asylum dock where the Hudson lapped black and hungry. Elias never stood again. He simply slid into the current, arms open, suit floating like dark wings. The river closed over him without a sound. The last thing the camera caught, before water shorted the circuits, was his hand breaking the surface one final time, palm up, carved deep with fresh initials, LH, feed dead. 45 million people sat in the dark, listening to their own heartbeats. Somewhere in the Bronx tonight, the river is still singing.